cooking. Have to eat chili 5 days a week for 2 weeks straight or whatever it was. Pastor Joe, he up there at Amazing Grace, he's kind of a heavy set guy, and he's got a wife, and he always tells me whenever I'm going to eat, he says, "You're too picky." His wife will say, "You want more?" And I'll say, "No, I'm full." And he goes, "You're too picky." And he goes, "If you have a wife," he goes, "whatever she puts down on the plate, you just eat it." And I'm still a young colt, so I'm not going to give in to it, but I guess one day you'll have to eat whatever's on the plate. But anyways, I just want to give you a quick update, and I won't talk long on it, but the mission's going well. We're even praying for a women's home. I don't know if I told y'all last time I was here, but a lady passed away who gave to the church for many years, and she willed a few $1,000s to the church for a women's home. So it's a good start. We're still looking for a piece of property to open one up. Up there in Columbus, there's a lot of prostitution, a lot of heroin addicts, a lot of pimps and different things. So we're trying to raise enough money for a women's home up there. A couple of ladies from the church have already said they'd help run it. We're still looking for a man or a woman, a married couple hopefully to run it, or just a woman to help us with it. The men's home is going well. The guys that you all saw last time I was here back in January, I think, one of them is getting ready to leave in about 2 weeks. He's going to complete the program, go back to work, and take care of his brother with Parkinson's disease. Another man's been working a job now for about a month. He was an alcoholic. He's been working a job for about a month, going to get married next month, I think, to his fiance. Been sober. And then another one, where did Jason Brown? The other one's just been growing in the Lord. I don't know if you all even met him, but he's just been growing in the Lord, and they are doing well. Those three that came here, they're all doing pretty well right now. I always tell the fellows, we read out a sign today at Dakota, I think, or wherever it was we were at, and it said, "It's better to have been a has-been than it never was." Yeah. Amen. And I tell those guys, I say, for the most part, most of you are going to go back to your drinking, your smoking, your doping, you'll die at an early age, and that's just how you'll end, and we'll go to your funeral, and we might preach your funeral. We'll be there with you on your deathbed, but at least for 3 months you serve the Lord. That's why I tell them to encourage them. I say, at least tell the devil, say, "Well, devil, you might not have my whole life, but for these 3 months, I'm going to give it to the Lord." So it's just a blessing to work with those men, and there are a lot of hardships in it. We just had one leave we've been working on for a while, and it gets hard, but keeps you spiritually awake. Amen. The devil's still alive and well. Anybody who stick a needle inside their arm, there's something wrong with them. It's called devils. Amen. But the mission is going well. We've seen people saved, and you just keep us in your prayers. Turn over to Deuteronomy tonight, chapter 14. I want to try and open up a little bit here with some ground. Dad usually teaches on I guess it's called me pastor. Pops. Dad, he usually teaches on Sunday night. I'll try my best to teach, but I just like shouting and being real loud. Amen. If you ain't got much to say, you just say it real loud, and people think it means something. Deuteronomy chapter 14. He says in Deuteronomy 14, I just want to point this out. I want to talk about just 3 of the duties of the priest tonight. Instead of the priesthood, instead of the children of Israel, because they're a pattern for you on how you're supposed to live your life with God. And I just want to lay some groundwork here. In Deuteronomy 14, he says, verse number 1, "You are the children of the Lord your God. You shall not cut yourselves nor make any baldness between your eyes to the dead. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord hath chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself above all nations that are upon the earth." Notice he said to be a peculiar people. Turn over to Titus chapter 2. You always got to do this with Baptists, because if they don't see it in the New Testament, then it's not of God, and they're not supposed to do it. They rightly divide, and you always got to prove that it's New Testament. He says this thing about being a peculiar people. A peculiar means weird, strange, drawn out. It means abnormal. I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but you're a peculiar people. You love a man that you've never seen. You sing about him often. You talk to him. You believe one day he's going to come back and he's going to be on a white horse, and you're going to be behind him dressed in white robes. Amen. And he's going to come out, and a two-headed sword's going to come out of his mouth and devour the whole land. There's going to be blood up to a horse's bridle. That's weird. Mm-hmm. That's abnormal. I don't know if you've ever thought about that. That's strange. That's peculiar. You go to a place on Sunday morning and you sing songs. You get down on your knees and you talk, and nobody's in front of you. You're not speaking to a visible person. That's peculiar. Titus chapter 2 and verse number 13, looking for that blessed hope and the glorious appearing of the great God and our Savior, Jesus Christ, who gave himself for us, that he might redeem us from all iniquity, and purify unto himself a peculiar people, zealous of good works. Turn over to one more place, 1 Peter chapter 2. 1 Peter chapter 2. I believe Peter here is talking to the Gentiles. If you notice, he says you are not of the people of God. Looking at 1 Peter 2. In verse number 9, but ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light, which in time past were not a people, but are now the people of God, which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. So I just want to point those out to you. That is a New Testament, and you're told to be a peculiar people. And the things in the Old Testament you get as a pattern. You learn from the things in the Old Testament. That's what I was wanting to get to. I wanted to get to some of the duties of the priest. Turn back over to Exodus chapter 28. Exodus chapter 28. A lot of good things started in the Old Testament. Breathing started in the Old Testament. We still do that. Cornbread and biscuits started in the Old Testament. Grilling out started in the Old Testament. Grilling steak and burgers and French fries. No, that wasn't in the Old Testament. But the things written before time written for our admonition and our learning, that we may grow thereby. In Exodus 28, I want to look at the first duty. The first, one of the things you notice about the priests is what they would wear when they go into the tabernacle to do the work of a priest, is they wear a breastplate of judgment. Looking at 28:15. And thou shalt make the breastplate of judgment with cunning work. After the work of the ephod, thou shalt make it of gold, of blue, and of purple, of scarlet, of fine twined linen, thou shalt make it. Verse number 30. Look over there in 30. And thou shalt put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and the Thummim, and they shall be upon Aaron's heart when he goeth in before the Lord. And Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel upon his heart before the Lord continually. I'm not going to preach on it, but talk about those stones. The Urim and Thummim, they're stones. And you ever think about a stone that's picked up off the ground? The Bible says that the stones would cry out. Jesus said that. He said, if you wouldn't praise me with your mouth, he said, I'd have the stones cry out. You ever think of everything the stones have seen? They were there in the garden where Eve sinned and Adam sinned, and they got to see the first death, an animal. They got to see bloodshed for the first time. They were there. There was a stone that was used to bash in Abel's head. You ever think of what all they've seen? They saw Jesus when he was led up to the Calvary. The stones saw that. They felt his blood trickle upon him. You know what Jesus told him? He said the stone would cry out if you didn't cry out for me. You ever think of those stones? They were picked up one day and put on the heart of a man, and they went into the tabernacle and seen the Shekinah glory, the glory of God. Just something to think. That's something to think about. You can chew on that one for a while. My point is that this was a breastplate of judgment. Urim and Thummim mean lights and perfection. A lot of scholars aren't sure about what they were specifically, but they think it had to do with they might light up in a certain way whenever God was telling the priest to judge something a certain way, or if God was wanting the priest to make a certain decision on a person on whether to cast them out of the crowd or whatever it was. But lights and perfection, that's what Urim and Thummim means. Lights, knowledge. Think of enlightenment. Perfection, perfecting knowledge. Ephesians 5 tells you to have a breastplate of judgment. He hit on it this morning, but our nation is a nation and a society of no judgment. They don't know what's right and what's wrong. We've alluded to it before. You look at any of the laws, they don't make any sense. In America, someone gets a gun and it accidentally goes off and they accidentally shoot their brother or sister or something like that, and they're no longer allowed to buy guns anymore. It's against the law for them to do that. You take a drunk out on the street who's abandoned his family, abandoned his home, stole, went to jail for years and years, maybe had some drunk driving, broke in and did an armed robbery. He doesn't get a mark on his license that says he's not allowed to buy alcohol anymore. Ain't that funny? He's allowed to go back and buy alcohol, but it's just an example of how our nation is one where it doesn't make sense, the laws that they make. He talked about abortion this morning. Abortion is murder. You look up the definition of life, there's 7 requirements. They may have changed it since then to justify abortion, but there's 7 requirements to life, and a fetus has all those examples. It responds to stimuli. If you touch it, it moves. That's a response. That's life. It's afraid of things. You make a loud sound, you'll see it wince inside the womb. That means it's alive. And there's other things too. It has to be growing or moving. It needs nutrients in some way. But our society doesn't see that. Anytime God shows up in the Bible in that area, they're usually killing a bunch of babies. Moses in Egypt, Jesus Christ, Herod killing the babies. You know the Lord's coming back, they're killing babies. We were talking today about ADHD and those different things in school. And I don't mean to belittle those things, but I've studied them for a few years, the ADHD, OCD, schizophrenia, all those different things, depression, anxiety, stress, schizotypical, and all those different things. You know we're oblivious to most of it. You ever thought about this? ADHD is you sitting in church and wanting to look out the window. And you can't pay attention to the preacher because he's boring you after that. You know what my remedy was? Now this was back in 2000 or 1999. But my remedy for that was my dad would go, Aaron, sit up. And I'd be over there laying down and I'd put my head up like this and I'd sit up. That's my remedy for it. My remedy for, there's another disorder, ODD, oppositional defiance disorder. And I worked at a camp in the summer for 2 summers, and I had to deal. I was an inclusion specialist. I dealt with children with abnormalities, and they weren't neurotypical. And one of our children had oppositional defiance disorder. Has anybody ever heard of oppositional defiance disorder? The symptoms of it are you don't listen well to authority, you don't like rules, and sometimes you get really upset and you might lash out. And I was thinking, I had that. I remember I talked back to my mom. I didn't like her authority. I didn't like her rules. And you know what her remedy was for it was? She'd go, Amen. And that's shot. If you're sitting there in the seat and she smacks you, I mean, you can't hit her back. You're kind of like this. And it's embarrassing. I mean, you feel belittled, but it shocks you. And that was her remedy for ODD. Those things you say, what are you talking about? We live in a nation that they don't know what's going on. Right. They pill everybody up. They dope them up. If you look at the heroin, and I've done a lot with the rehabs and different things, and counseling and therapies of drug addicts and different things, everything that they do is against God. They try and get a drug addict off drugs by making him believe in himself. What happens whenever he gets off the drugs that way? Why would you need God? You got off drugs on your own by going to therapy and different counseling, different medicine. You don't need God then. If you're depressed, what you do is you listen to a motivational speaker. You do different therapies that they have. They have blue light therapy and different things. You say, what do? You get out of it by not going to God. You realize how hard it is to work with drug addicts nowadays? It used to be you tell drunks that you're drunk and you're going to hell. And unless you repent and get right with God, you're never going to get over your drunk. You know what he'd do? He'd either get right or he'd keep going being a drunk. You know now what you got to do? You got to try and reteach them from AA. You got to try and teach them from all the therapy that they've been doing. They think that they're saved because they turned over a new leaf. That's what they think being saved is. We got a lot of churches up there that they're ignorant. They're modernistic, they're liberal, and what they teach to people is that you're saved. If you start coming to church, you're saved. If you just start telling people about Jesus and how good he's been to, that's what they teach them, is that you're saved. I've had countless guys. We just had one in the mission the other night. He said, I'm saved. And I said, why? He goes, well, I started going to Vineyard Church up there. Vineyard Church is a modern church where they play rock music and everything else, and that's what they teach them. You say, what are you saying? We live in a nation with no righteous judgment. They don't know what's right and what's wrong. That's right. Right. Amen. Don Green once said, or Proverbs 21:3 says to do justice and judgment is more acceptable than sacrifice. He said, I'd rather you judge righteously. I'd rather you say what's right and what's wrong. Don Green once said, your judgment in a situation is only as good as your knowledge of it. Talk about making decisions, responsibility, discernment. How can you make a decision on something that you don't know anything about? Yeah. How can you make a decision on something without knowing what God said about it? We look at the world and we look at America and we like to talk about the world's problems and things that are going on in their life, and we don't ever stop to think about how many times we make decisions without ever seeing what God said about it. We choose to get into a marriage, we choose to get into a job, and we don't ever see what God said about it. We're going through a struggle in our life, and we don't ever look at what someone else in the Bible went through and how they handled it. You ever done this with your problem? You ever either try doing it on your own, praying over it, or you go to your pastor, but have you ever went and tried finding it in the Bible? You know almost every problem there's ever been is in the Bible and somebody else already went through it. Yeah. Death in a family member, a prodigal son. David had 3 sons try and kill him. Have you ever looked at any of them and how they handled it? You say, Aaron, I went back on the Lord, I went prodigal. You ever read about Peter? The Lord forgave him, didn't he? You ever see how he got right with it? David went and committed adultery and then lied about it to the man and murdered the man. Yep. Did you do anything worse than that? Whenever you went out to the world, did you do anything worse than that? You know, God said he's a man after my own heart. You know, every decision you want to make in the Bible, or every decision you want to make in life, you can find in the Bible. You can find it by praying and fasting over it. I know I mentioned that thing fasting, and I don't know about you, but I listen to a lot of preaching daily. You never hear anybody teach on fasting. You never hear anybody preach on it. Next time you read through your Bible, I don't know what your Bible schedule is, but go through and every time somebody fasts, just mark it down on a piece of paper. And find out who all in the Bible fasted. I didn't think I'd get a lot of amens on this one. Good. You know fasting, it's New Testament? Amen. Jesus said, he said when the bridegroom was with them, he said they're not going to fast. The Pharisees were saying, well, they're not fasting, your disciples aren't fasting. He said, hey, once I leave, they're going to fast. That's what he said. You know what the New Testament did? They'd fast all night. When Peter was in prison, they fasted and prayed and got together in prayer and prayed. That's why we have a prayer meeting. That's what the New Testament church did. They met together. They went over prayer requests for other people and their families and their co-workers and the ministries that were going on out of the church. And they said, we got to meet together and pray over it. And sometimes they pray all night. I asked a man the other day, or he came to me actually asking me about it, but he said he got a boy, and the boy's been acting up, being rebellious, and he's too old to get spanked. And he's living in his house, and he said, I don't know what to do. He said, I think it's going to get to the point where I'm just going to have to beat him, physically beat him. Just beat him up, knock him out or something. He's a smart aleck and not obeying the rules and different things. And he goes, the problem is, he goes, I just can't find in the Bible where I'm supposed to physically beat him up. I mean, apart from stoning the children, he did just say use a rod, but he never said get a 3-inch rod and beat more of the head with it until he's knocked out, wait until he wakes up. So you have to admit, you can't really find that in the Bible that you physically punch him in the face until you get right. But this is the thing I asked him, is I said, have you prayed over it and fasted over it? He goes, no. And he started laughing. He goes, maybe that's why I don't know what I should do. I wonder how many times in our life we make decisions and we haven't prayed over it, we haven't fasted over it. You know what fasting does in the Bible, or is what God says it does? It helps you make decisions. Fasting shows God that you're serious about it. You ever thought about this? Everything you do in your life is to do this, to eat. Yeah. Why does a man go to work? Got to feed. Got to eat. Got to put something in your mouth. He has to provide for his wife, for his kids. There won't be any reason to work. If you could just go and eat everything fresh, there would be no reason to work. You work to eat. Every day that you get up, you eat. You put something inside your body. You know what fasting does? It tells God, it says, hey, for a day I'm going to deny my flesh. This whole flesh ain't eating. You say, Aaron, I don't think that has anything to do with spiritual strengthening or spiritual power or anything like that. You do this and don't drink coffee for a day. You tell me it's not a spiritual battle. You don't drink coffee in the morning, then you go to work, and whenever someone says good morning, see how you respond to them. You try not to drink coffee. Try not to drink it for 2 days. Catholics, God bless their heart, they do it all the wrong way. They give up things for Lent. Well, giving up cussing, that's not a real big sacrifice to God. You're not really fasting from anything. I heard someone say, I want to give up R-rated movies. That's not fasting from anything. You know what fasting does, where you don't eat it, and you can do it differently, but maybe you don't drink caffeine, or you don't drink pop, or you don't drink tea, or maybe you stay up late one night, or I don't know what it is, but you take something that you want, that your flesh desires, that you give yourself constantly, you say, God, I don't want this, I want to abstain from it, I want to teach myself self-discipline. You know what God does? He looks down and he says, oh, they're being serious. They're being serious about it. Whenever those revivals will break out, if you read about those revivals, I still believe in revivals. I don't know if it'll be on such a large scale where the whole nation gets right, but I do believe you can have revivals in a church and in families and different things. You know what would happen is they would send a singer or whoever it was, they would send somebody ahead for about a week to pray and fast over the area. And he would just sit out there day by day, and his job for about a week would be just to pray and fast. Drink water all day. Go and get a deer skin and lay it down on the ground, put his knees on, just read his Bible and pray over the town. And then the evangelist comes through and preaches, and there would be a great revival. Bars would shut down, churches would open, and people would get saved. But prayer and fasting. Most people, and I'll close this point on this, most people don't want to know what God said about it. They want to go to the preacher and say, Preacher, what do you think about it? Or what do you think I should do in this situation? I had a man one time at a meal service, and they knew I go to Ohio State up there, and I was preaching about something, and one of my main points was godly knowledge, godly wisdom, doing what God said about something, not wanting worldly philosophy and worldly therapy and those things. And this guy, we call him Lazy Rick. Everybody gets nicknames up there. Lazy Rick. He's been there for about 15, 20 years. You can hear Jimmy Hood on old tapes talking about him, using him as an illustration, but he's a bum. Won't work, won't do anything, just sits around, drinks, and smokes and gets high and everything. And he's not a hateful guy or nothing. He's just a bum. He's, nothing. And they call him Lazy Rick. And I made those points, man, about wanting worldly wisdom and worldly knowledge, and you need to know what God said about it. And I kid you not, I thought he was joking. But he came up to me after the service, and he goes, Aaron, he told me about a problem he's had with his girlfriend. And it's breaking his heart. He's real depressed about it. And I said, well, God said, if you're not married, you shouldn't be, if you've never made a vow to her or nothing like that, or you probably shouldn't be with her. And he goes, I know that. He goes, I know what God said about it. He goes, but you go to Ohio State. He goes, don't you have some type of wisdom or something about it? I said, what? And he goes, well, I know you go to Ohio State, and you probably took in a lot of classes and stuff. You know a little bit about marriage, those different things. He goes, don't you have any advice like that on it? Being dead serious. I said, Rick, didn't you listen to anything I said? But most people don't want to know what God said about something. But godly discernment, godly wisdom about something. The next thing I want to point out was over here in Exodus 29. I'm trying to teach a little bit more tonight and preach so much, but we'll see how it goes. Exodus 29, and read down two verses there, 38 and 39. The priests, they had a breastplate of judgment, discernment. They also sacrificed daily. Look down Exodus 29 and verse number 38. Now, this is that which thou shalt offer upon the altar, 2 lambs of the first year, day by day, continually. The one lamb thou shalt offer in the morning, the other lamb shalt thou offer at even. Hebrews 10:11, I quoted it this morning, but it says the priest standing and offering oftentimes the same sacrifices which can never take away sins. It talks about the priest standing daily and ministering and offering the same sacrifices. I don't know if you ever thought about it, that'd get monotonous. Killing sheep all day, and goats all day, cutting their throats and taking out all the entrails and all those things, and putting this over here and having one priest take this over there, and you clean out the other one, and you do that, and it takes about an hour, and then you got to do the whole thing over again with a quail or a pigeon or a ram or a bullock or those things. So that get monotonous. Aren't you glad you don't have to do that today?
Amen.
But you know something that Jesus said, or I think Paul said it, he said, I die daily. You know what Jesus told his disciples? He said, take up your cross and follow me daily. Whenever he taught his disciples to pray, he didn't say, God, thank you for the food that you're going to give me over the next month, and I'm going to store in the refrigerator. Or I'll go to the fast food restaurant and eat some, or I'll go to the grocery store and get some. He said, give us this day our daily bread. I'm not saying the refrigerator's wicked and awful, and I'm not saying fast food's awful and those things. But everything in this world is against God. You realize we don't suffer at all. If we really needed food, you could at least go find a soup kitchen and go eat at it. Give us this day our daily bread. We don't have to go and kill nothing for it. If we really want food, we can run down to the store and grab something. We're not run down to a fast food place. The point is it takes away our need to pray daily. I don't need to pray for food because I got a refrigerator back home that's got plenty of food and a cupboard full of food and those things. And it takes away our need to pray daily. God wants to talk to you daily. Amen. And that was the time of Jesus, and it's the time of now. He wants to talk to you daily. He wants you to sacrifice daily. You ever thought about this? Start your day out without prayer. It's literally you telling God, I don't need you today. I'll be good today. I don't need your word this morning. I don't need prayer this morning. I'm good today. You praying is you telling God that you need Him, and you not praying is you telling God when you don't need Him. Silence speaks just as loud as words sometimes. You ever thought about this? A ship, whenever it sets sail, if it's on the harbor, and they're getting ready to make a long journey for months and months. You ever thought about how funny it would be if they would set sail and one of the co-pilots or co-captains goes, all right, which direction, Captain? And he goes, I don't know. Just throw her out there and see where she goes. I'll set course later tonight. Next week I'll set course. I'll get behind the helm and I'll start steering. You ever thought how strange that'd be? You ever thought how strange it'd be to get out there in your car and start it up and take your hands off the steering wheel and put it in reverse? Just press down the gas pedal. You know what you do before you move? You take control of the steering wheel. You know what a captain does before he sets sail? He takes part of the helm. And you know what you do whenever you don't pray in the morning and you don't read your Bible in the morning? You're not setting your direction for that day. You don't know where the day's going to take you. You put the day in your own hands. You didn't give it to God. You know God wants to hear from you daily. David said, at morning and at noon and at evening will I cry unto you. I already said those. That thing with a daily thing, I know it can be hard. I know you can get busy. I know it's easy for a single man without a family to raise or a full-time job to say, well, you need to be praying for 5 hours in the morning. But you know there are people who have raised families and have put aside time for prayer. Anybody ever heard of Susanna Wesley? John Wesley's mother, Charles Wesley's mother. She raised 11 children, had 6 miscarriages, so she would have had about 18, but she went through 6 miscarriages, I think. I might have the numbers wrong. I think it was 5 boys, 6 girls, or 6 boys and 5 girls. You know, out of those girls, every one of them married a preacher or a pastor. Out of all the boys, they were either preachers, doctors, or lawyers, or both. She taught them Greek. She, by herself, her husband was a minister, I believe, and he would spend a lot of time at the college or seminary, and she would pretty much raise them on her own. And she taught them, I think, Greek, Hebrew, and Latin, top of English. And she got to the point where she did Bible studies with them, and people from the community would start coming to the Bible studies. And it got to the point where it was about 30 or 40 people were coming, and her husband heard about it and wrote her a letter and said, if you don't stop having these services, I forget what he said. I don't know. He said, if you don't quit having these services, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I think she wrote him back and said, if God opened the door, I will not shut it. Something like that. You know what Susanna Wesley used to do? She used to go in her rocking chair and put a blanket over her head. And her children knew that when Susanna was in that rocking chair, you're not loud. You don't talk to her. You don't bother her. You go outside and play. But she was praying. You know, Charles Spurgeon, he called the Prince of Preachers. He had a great church. And a young preacher asked him one time, what's the secret? Maybe a deal movie. I get these names all messed up. But a young preacher asked him, what's the secret to building a big church? Building a big Sunday school. And he said, come downstairs with me. They walked down the spiral staircase down to the basement. And he said, look right here. And there's a circle of chairs in the basement in a circle. And he said, right above that's a pulpit where I stand each Sunday morning. He said, every Sunday morning the widows come down here, a group of widows of 15 or 20 of them, and they sit in a circle, and the whole time I'm standing up there, they're praying. He said, I stand between their prayers and the throne of God every Sunday. God wants you to sacrifice daily. He wants to hear from you daily. He wants to help you daily. Heard an old preacher say this once, the Holy Spirit does not want weekend visitation rights. He wants full custody. Right. Let me say that again. The Holy Spirit does not want weekend visitation rights. He wants full custody. Amen. You say, what does He want, Aaron? He wants your money, your job, your career, your health. He wants your family, your mom, your dad, your kids, your brothers, your sisters. He wants your goals, your dreams, your future, your past, your present. He wants your thoughts, your time, your joy, your pains. He wants your troubles, your sorrows, your burdens. He wants your words. He wants your mornings. He wants your noondays and at nights. He wants your imperfections. He wants your shortcomings. He wants your victories. He wants your defeats. He wants your gifts, your talents, and your service. He wants your worship, your praise, and attention, and He wants your prayers. You say, what does He want? He wants you. Amen. God's action towards man depends upon man's action towards God. A man said one of the saddest facts of the Christian life is that God desires us so much more than what we desire Him. At Jesus' feet there's worship, there's sacrifice. The third one I'll say is this, is everyone had a job to do. Turn over to Exodus chapter 35. Exodus 35, the children of Israel here, in the building of the tabernacle, everybody had a job to do. Like I said, there's plenty of things you can bring out about the priests, and then you can teach on that until the Lord comes back. So I'm just going to point out 3 things here. Everyone had a job to do. Look down in Exodus 35, verse number 20. And the congregation of the children of Israel departed from the presence of Moses. They're talking about building a tabernacle here. And they came, everyone whose heart stirred him up, and everyone who his spirit made willing. And they brought the Lord's offering to the work of the tabernacle of the congregation, and for all His service, and for the holy garments. And they came, both men and women, as many as were willing-hearted, and brought bracelets and earrings and rings and tablets, all jewels of gold. And every man that offered an offering of gold unto the Lord, and every man with whom found blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen and goats' hairs and red skins of rams and badgers and skins, and brought them. And every one that did offer an offering of silver and brass brought the Lord's offering. And every man with whom was found shipping wood for any work of the service brought it. And all the women that were wise-hearted did spin with their hands and brought that which they had spun, both of blue and of purple and of scarlet and of fine linen. And all the women whose hearts stirred them up in wisdom spun goat's hair. And the rulers brought onyx and stones to be set for the ephod, for the breastplate, and spice and oil for the light, for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense. You can go on down and keep reading them. In verse 35, it talks about he that filled with the wisdom of heart to work all manner of work, engraver and of the cunning workman, of the embroiderer in blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen. even to them that do work, and to those devise cunning work. The thing I noticed here is that everybody had a job to do. Women had a job, they were to sew. Women could sew. So they brought everything that they sewed together. There's another place, a portion of scripture you can read where they brought their jewelry, their earrings, and they melted it down to make things in the tabernacle. You read about the rulers. Rulers had money. They bring the expensive stones, expensive diamonds, and those things. It talks about they were willing-hearted, and their hearts stirred them up to bring it. One thing that it's sad, but it is actually easy to do. You know, an easy thing to do as a preacher or a pastor is to guilt people into service for the Lord, to make them feel guilty for not serving the Lord. You can do that. It's easy to do. It's easy to do it through preaching. You just got to make them feel guilty about it. Whenever a person feels guilty about serving the Lord, they'll only last for a little while. If they're not serving the Lord because they want to, because they're coming with a willing heart, they won't last in it. And the thing I wanted to point out there was that God filled them with the Spirit to do that. That was an insignificant looking work. Just to be, all they were carpenters or craftsmen with maybe they get a smith, a blacksmith or something. They weren't Moses. They didn't get to go up on Mount Sinai with a fire all around them. They didn't come down with the tablets of stone in their arms with a shining faith that they've been with God. God didn't speak to them personally. God didn't speak to them every day like they did Moses. They weren't at the front. They weren't the children of Aaron. They weren't of the priesthood. They didn't get to go in and wear the shining gold and get to have all that on them. They weren't of the children of Aaron or the Levites. They were just craftsmen. They were just women that could sew. Their husbands weren't great men in the city and the community. They were just women who had a willing heart to do something for the Lord. And it says God did, and He says it filled them with the Spirit to do it. The first man that gets stoned in the Bible, whenever God says, I'm done with the Jews and I'm going to the Gentiles, you know who it was? Stephen. Jesus stood up for Stephen in heaven. As I looked up and saw the Son of Man standing at the right hand. Stephen was a deacon. He's one of your first deacons in the Bible. He preached too. Whatever God tells you to do, He'll fill you with the Spirit to do it. Amen. And no matter how small the job is, He'll fill you with the Spirit to do it. I wrote down a list of jobs to do, amen. I wrote down a list of jobs to do, and I made it personal with this church. I do that. I preach this at other churches too, and I'll make it personal with their church. But I was preaching at my church, it'd be different. This list of things would be different. There's a list of things that have to be done, things that go on under the scenes that most people don't see. You can mow the lawn, you can weed eat, you can garden, you can vacuum, you can sweep, you can mop, you can clean toilets, you can clean pews. You can do teach Sunday school for the children, you can teach Sunday school for the adults. You can do junior church, nursery. God help you to do nursery. Trash out, take the trash out, food for fellowships, clean up after fellowships. Soul win on Thursdays, pass out tracts everywhere you go. You can tithe and give offerings. You can do the sound, you can do singing, sing specials for the Lord. You can play music. You can be a deacon. For the tent meeting, someone has to bring ice every night for the water. Someone needs to pick up the song books because it might rain and seep through and then get on the song books and then they get all watered down. Meals for the tent meeting. Being here for the tent meeting. You know how discouraging it is to a pastor whenever he holds a meeting and he tells people months and months in advance and they don't show. Now, I'm not saying anything personal. My dad doesn't tell me about it, but I grew up a pastor's son. All I do is talk to preachers and pastors. And they set aside that time a week out of the month and they say, hey, we're going to have a special meeting. And just being there is a blessing to them. I've never once gotten a real thrill from just preaching empty pews. I have done it. I have done it at times past. If no one would listen to me, I just start preaching, to the dog and the cat, kick the cat a little bit and preach to the dog. And I like preaching to people. That's what God called me to do. That's what God called a pastor to do, was to lead people. He likes when people show up. He said, that's a small thing here. If that's all you can do, then do it. Have you ever thought about this? If you're not physically able to, or you don't have the time to do that, this church needs someone praying for it. At our church we have several women, and I think a couple men too, but several women that I know of who each day they spend about an hour at least in prayer. They take on Wednesday nights, they take the prayer list down, they write them down, and a lady takes them and she makes a copy of them, or she sends them on a text or an email and goes out to the people, and those women just pray for the church about an hour a day. You say, Aaron, that's an easy job. No, it ain't. You do it. You ever went and said, Lord, I'm going to pray for an hour, and you got to pray, and you poured your heart out to Him, and you prayed for everything. You prayed for world peace, you prayed for America to get right, you prayed for revival at the church, for all drugs to end, for the pastor and God's power to fall upon you, and you looked up at the clock and it's 15 minutes. You prayed for everything. You didn't know what to pray for. That's a job. Something you have to discipline yourself to do. You know, God can fill you with the power to do that. You know, we get in trouble when we try to do someone else's job, or we don't do our own. You know, it usually stirs up trouble, and I get accused of doing this because I try and get in everybody's job and do their job for them. But I get accused of doing other people's job. And you know, it causes problems when you're trying to do someone else's job, something God didn't tell you to do, something you were guilted into doing. I use this as an illustration, and just a couple illustrations here. I played football played football there through high school, and I was a running back freshman year, and I didn't play junior year, and then senior year I was a running back again. But you know, something I noticed about young running backs is that you're used to playing backyard football. Backyard football, you just run around and try and get past the line, and that's it. And in football, they have different plays. They have dives and pitches. A dive right up the middle, right off the center's hind end, or right off the guard's hind end. You just go right there, and you just go straight there. All the power's right there. A pitch is what you give to a faster player. You pitch along the outside, and he runs around the outside of the line. Everybody with me? I know that you don't know what I'm talking about. The women don't know anything I'm talking about. A dive's right up the middle, and a pitch is along the outside. You know what a young running back will want to do whenever he gets a dive? As a running back, you don't like getting hit. It hurts. So when you go to do a dive, you're thinking, I'm going to get hit by a middle linebacker, and it's going to hurt really bad. So you know what you want to do naturally? You want to go up to that line and then just start running out here on a dive. That's what a young running back does. He wants to do that every time. You don't want to go up the middle. You know, something I learned was that whenever you don't do that, you're not doing your job. The coach called that specific play because he wanted it to be a dive. That way it'll open up the pitch. Or he had you do a dive. That way the next time the quarterback can fake it to you like that, the defense comes in and he throws it over their shoulder. He has a plan. The coach has a plan that as a young running back you don't understand and you don't get. But he has a plan. He's working above the scenes and he's been through things. And you know something I learned? We call it being a cowboy. Is whenever you're told to do a dive and you won't go and do it because maybe the line got stuck up, maybe the linemen didn't do their job and they're crowded together. But you know what happens? You know what they tell you to do? They tell you if that happens, if the linemen are stuck together, you just lower your shoulder and you keep pushing, but you stay right there on the dive. Don't kick it out. And I'll tell you why. 3 things I learned about whenever you kick it out is one, you usually lose yards. Whenever you kick the ball out, what you got to do is you got to try and go back at an angle so you backtrack like this. And you want to go on the outside. You know what happens? That defensive end over there comes and tackles you for a loss of 2. You know what happens whenever you don't do your job, you don't go up the middle, when you try and do it your own way, you lose yards. I also learned that my linemen, they lost their faith in me. A lineman's told to do his job and to block for you. Whenever you want to do things your own way, you know what happens? Your team loses faith in you. The third thing I learned is that if I didn't learn to quit doing it, my coach would take me out. I lost yards. The Bible tells you to resist the devil and give no place to him. You know, a lot of people, they lose yards with the devil, and the devil just keeps taking them down. You say, why? Because they're out of their place. They're a sheep alone out in the field. They're not in the Word of God. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I can tell you a story of a guy at work. He's a janitor, and he out there at Ohio State, and he's a little charismatic, but I got him on the King James Bible at least, and he speaks in tongues and different things and healing, but he listens to all the TV preachers. He won't go to church, but he listens to all the TV preachers. And last time I saw him, he said the exact same. He's been saying it now. I've been there for 4 years. He says it every single time I see him. He goes, "Brother, pray for me. I've just been struggling. Or I'm just not doing too good." There's always a problem with him. You say, why? Because he's not where he should be. Not doing what he's supposed to be doing. If I didn't learn to quit, my coach would take me out. You know something else I learned about linemen is linemen don't like being a lineman until they're older. Anyone ever done Pee Wee, Coach Pee Wee, or anything like that? Or linemen don't like being linemen as little children in 3rd and 4th grade because they don't ever get the ball. Every young kid wants to have the ball. He wants to be the running back or the quarterback. That's what he wants to do, and he wants to be able to run the ball. Yeah. And most linemen don't like being linemen until they're older. You say, why? Because by the time they get older, they're a little bit bigger. They can start shoving people around a little bit. And you know what they realize is that if they're tall enough and big enough, colleges will recruit them because they need big guys. You know what they realize eventually is running backs aren't the only ones who get all the fun. That guard realizes that every now and then he gets to pull and hit that defensive end. And you know what he realizes once he gets to the NFL is that they all get paid pretty good. Yeah. If you ever coach T-ball, no T-ballers like playing in the outfield. None of the balls ever get hit out there. Why do you want to play out in the outfield? You get no action. There's no glory out in the outfield. Everyone wants to be a pitcher. You know what happens as time goes by and they get older and they get up through a pitching machine and little league and different things, and they get to junior high and then high school. You know, by the time they're in high school, they don't really care too much to play in the outfield. Because by then everybody's hitting into the outfield, they're getting plenty of action in the outfield. And then again, by the time they get to the major leagues, they can care less what position they play in. They're going to make $100 million a year. You know, serving the Lord, a lot of times your job seems small. No one has ever came up to me, I've cleaned toilets before, no one has ever came up to me and said, Brother Aaron, I just wanted to tell you, I used the bathroom earlier and I just wanted to thank you for cleaning it. It was the most beautiful bath, it was the most beautiful toilet. I just want to thank you for your service for the Lord and for cleaning those toilets. I've never had anyone do that. I've never had anyone come and shake my hand for it. Mowing the lawn, I've never had anyone cry over mowing the lawn. You know, I get plenty of praise as a preacher. I get praise all the time for it. Aaron, that really helped me. That was a blessing for me. I've had people at the meal service think they're supposed to clap for me once I'm done. I've had people come up to me crying, telling me that I helped them, you know, get through a struggle or different things. You know, I get a lot of applause as a preacher. You're up on front stage, you're Moses. You know God will fill anyone with the Spirit to do what He wants them to do. Yeah. And no matter how small the job is, you know God sees it as a big job. You know that's biblical. You know Jesus said that. He said, if you're faithful over little, He said, I'll make you ruler over much. For those that are faithful in the least, you know your job might seem small, but it has to be done. And you know God will fill you with the Spirit to do it. No one ever sees our sound man in the back. His name's Brother Miller, Ron Miller. No one ever sees him, but because of him, we get to put our preaching online and we get to record things, and years down the road, we can make CDs from it. That's a small job. You ever thought what it'd be like for him to never sit with his wife in church? There's a church now in Kentucky right now, Victory Baptist, and their guy been doing sound for 3 years. And a man came up to him one day and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about not doing the sound, or do you want me to help you with it?" And his brother goes, "I've been praying to the Lord for months." He said, "I've got to sit with my wife for 3 years in church and just pay attention, just be able to sit back in the pew and just listen." He said, "I've got to do that." You say, "Well, that's something no one notices." Nobody notices Barnabas Beechler on Sunday morning is going to pick people up in the van and have to leave at 9, an hour early before church, and have to drive through traffic and people cutting him off, and then trying to come into church with a good spirit. Been doing it now for about 10 years. You say, "What is that?" That's a little job. You know, in the eyes of the Lord, that pays good. And whatever job you're doing, it pays good. If you stay faithful to the Lord, He'll reward you for it. Find your job and do it for the glory of the Lord. I don't know what your job is. I don't know what the Lord's laid on your heart. I don't know if it's praying. I don't know if it's just being here. I don't know if it's inviting people out. You know, some people can just invite people out to church and they'll come. And other people, I wouldn't take them soul winning with me if they paid me to do it. Amen. They're just not real good with people. They're not too good at talking to people. I don't know what your skill is, but God's gifted you with a skill to do something with it. I can go on and on, but it says the sons of Bezaleel. We won't read about it, but it says that he made Bezaleel. It's in 36. You know, Bezaleel and his sons, he trained his sons to work for the Lord, to be craftsmen, to be tradesmen. And you know what God said? He said, "I'm going to use what He's done with His children. I'm going to use him to glorify me." And you know God's trained you to do something. You go to the Lord and ask Him what it is, and He'll give you the strength to do it. As I go around to churches, the one thing I want more than anything is I want by the time I leave for them to be closer together than what they were whenever I left. I'll never go to a church and try and tear them apart. Try and bring them together. You ever think of what this church could be like if everyone was together? If everyone was doing their job, if everybody was going to the place they're supposed to go at the time they're supposed to go, hitting the right holes, blocking the right men. You ever think of what this church would be like? You have a revival coming up, and truth be told, Hillsboro needs a revival just as much as anywhere else. America needs a revival. Hillsboro needs a revival. Columbus needs one. You know what needs one before Hillsboro is Bible Believers Baptist Church. You say, "Aaron, what's a revival?" It's not what you think. It's not a million people coming through the door. Right. That's not a revival. A revival is a stirring of the people. Amen. Of God's people. Well, you can't revive lost people. Amen. They've never been alive. They've never taken a breath of air. Everybody always thinks it's people getting saved. That's not what a revival is. That might come as a result of it. A revival is a stirring of the people. Usually anytime you see a revival happening, there's a stirring of prayer, a stirring up of prayer within the church, of faith in the church, and of the preaching and the teaching of the Word of God. There's a desire, a hunger for it. People start getting to places earlier. They start getting to church earlier. They start getting there a few minutes earlier. Or they start setting aside time to pray. And what happens is you start noticing a spirit in the church pick up. It's different. There's a different feeling to it. You start hearing people talk, and it's about the Lord. It's not about the world. It's about the Lord. That's a revival. We've been having a revival at Amazing Grace for 2 months now. You say, how many people have gotten saved? About 2 or 3. Good. They're good testimonies, good stories to hear. We got a little 12-year-old girl got saved, and she took her Bible home, and her parents threw it in the trash and said, "You're never going back there again." You grounded her for a week, and we've been sneaking her to church. We really have. We've been sneaking her to church. You say you shouldn't do that, well, so be it. We've had a revival. We had another person get saved. We've had about 3 get saved. You say, what's happened there? Just the spirit of the church just did that. We cooked those meal services, and it used to be you couldn't pay anybody to come and cook them for the church. Our women were worn out cooking. They cooked 7 days a week. We were just tired of it. We did morning devotions every day of the week. We did showers every day. People were tired, man. We did nursing home on Sundays. We did street preaching ministries on Fridays. We go to the football games and preach. People were tired. They were worn out. You know what's been happening lately? We've had at meal services, 10 people from the church come out, 10 to 15 people, and just hang out and talk, fellowship. You say, what is it? That's a revival. You see people on Sunday morning smiling, peaceful, happy. The singing picks up usually. Singing, we might sing a couple extra songs, a couple extra specials. People want to hear the preaching and teaching of the Word of God. They're excited for it. You say, what is that? That's a revival. You know God still wants to do that with His people. Amen. So I ask you tonight just to think on these things about the discernment, about the judgment, about the sacrificing daily, and doing your job. What is your job? And are you doing it? Are you filled with the glory of God? Or Jeff, we'll go ahead and close in a word of prayer.